Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was the Conqueror of the Shinobi World. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. Naruto, after 3 months. Another horde of clones rushed towards him like an endless sea. The blonde activated his Sharingan. As the horde rushed towards him, he did a hand sign. Fire style. Dragon breath. A huge flame shaped like a dragon appeared from his mouth, the size shadowing the whole horde of thousands of clones. His wings spread wide, darkening the entire forest, the heat burning the trees and grass to a crisp. The dragon flew towards the clones. The clones prepared and used a giant water wall to protect themselves, but the crimson-red dragon pierced right through the water wall like a knife through butter. The collision caused a massive explosion of heat, flames and steam. Naruto activated his first Susanoo stage, and the wind wave caused the trees to be ripped from their root. Even Naruto had trouble standing still. The cave Susanoo covered him from the explosion. The steam spread for hundreds of meters. Soon the mist spread away. The view cleared in front of him, showing him the land had turned dark, smoke coming from several places around the burned grass. The ground itself had turned red on several places, a glowing red. Naruto understood his flames were so hot that turned the stone to melted rock. The trees were aflame everywhere. Naruto felt sweat rolling down his cheek. Despite the Susanoo cage, he could still feel the heat around him, almost suffocating him. Naruto started hand signs again, finishing it. Water style. Wave spark. Water with high pressure came out his mouth, aiming towards the sky. The water reached 100 meters before it fell down like a calming rain. Naruto cancelled his Susanoo and felt the rain wet his skin. His clothes got wet, but Naruto didn't mind. He saw the fire going away. Smoke spread around. It didn't take long, and the fire and smoke disappeared. Lava had turned to the black ground. Naruto did more hand signs to regrow the trees that were burned. Wood style. Deep forest emergence. Trees after trees regrow from the ground. Every tree and grass regrow around, making the forest look just as before he started training. Doing a single hand sign, he made the seal barrier around the area disappear. The barrier worked that no damage would be caused outside. The barrier worked to alarm him if anyone was getting close to his location. To disguise what he was doing, from outside one would just see an empty forest. The final thing, it hides the chakra from coming out. This seal would hide even Kurama's chakra from being detected from outside. Returning to his home, he started preparing food for himself and perhaps a certain snake lady. It had been 3 months now. Naruto had trained with her several times, and even took her to eat ramen with him in Ichiraku Ramen. One time Kakashi-sensei joined them, late as always, and his reason was the most ridiculous thing he had ever heard. "I'm sorry while coming here. I remembered that I had forgotten to drop the water on the toilet." Both Anko and Naruto had said nothing for several minutes, looking at him as if he was an alien. Naruto was eating fish for dinner when Anko returned from her first report. He quickly retrieved and prepared some more fish, so that she could have dinner as well. Anko didn't need to be told twice, and she accepted the meal gratefully. She told him about her day and everything that had happened during the meal. But then she handed him the sealing book and informed him of the Hokage's message. "Is it possible that Yondaime wrote this book?" "Really?" After a minute of silence, Naruto stammered. Anko had been curious as to who Naruto's hero was, and now she knew why. After all, the Yondaime is regarded as one of the greatest shinobi of all time. When he pressed the book to his chest as if it were the world's greatest treasure, she quickly nodded and smiled. To him, it most likely was. She wished him good night and informed him that he had the morning off from training, so they could discuss the training schedule for the coming month. Naruto thanked her once more for everything she had done for him, and wished her good night. He read for a while in Yondaime's book before falling asleep shortly after finishing the first chapter. He awoke the next day and went on the hunt for Anko. He discovered her in the clearing, frantically scribbling notes on a piece of paper. He sat quietly next to her so as not to disturb her while she worked. Anko was trying to figure out how to get Naruto to do as much training as possible this month. At 7 AM, this is not an easy task. She scribbled something down, only to discover something new shortly after and have to start all over again. It was causing her to lose her mind. Her stomach told her it was time to stop writing and start eating when she smelled breakfast. She turned to see Naruto, who was smiling and holding a plate for her. Naruto has evolved dramatically in the last month. He's a unique individual. She reassured herself. Like every morning, they ate their breakfast in silence. Naruto had to wait 2 days to figure out that Anko preferred to spend the early mornings alone, at least until breakfast. Soon after, he arrived for a quiet breakfast. It was a time when he could reflect on the day ahead of him. "Okay, Gaki, we'll have to work out a new training schedule for you. I've been thinking about it, but I can't seem to strike a good balance. Will you please assist me in this situation? Now, I believe you could devote 1 hour per day to chakra control, after which we will engage in some sparring matches until lunchtime. We could spend some time after lunch working on speed and strength training. Or perhaps we could work on your ninjutsu skills. What are your thoughts?" Anko attempted to enlist Naruto's assistance. What do you think about this? I make a few dozen clones in the morning, as usual, and tell them to practice chakra control and taijutsu, while you and I work on sparring, speed, and strength exercises. We could either work on ninjutsu or theoretical stuff after lunch. Every day, we could switch up the afternoon program. Does this sound appealing to you? Naruto remarked. Anko gave it some thought and agreed that it was a good idea. As a result, they quickly agreed to stick to Naruto's schedule for the next month. They decided to start with theoretical lessons in the afternoon because she was still tired from the day before. Naruto said that was fine, and since they had the morning off, he took out his sealing book and began reading while Anko returned to her bed. Naruto did his morning exercises the next day, but just as he was about to make a few dozen clones, Anko informed him that she had devised a new exercise for him. She had gotten the idea a few days before about how medical shinobi needed to have excellent chakra control. With their chakra, they were able to create chakra scalpels. A chakra scalpel was created by concentrating a large amount of chakra on the tip of a finger and manipulating it until it was as sharp as a knife. The more she considered it, the more convinced she became that it would be an excellent Naruto exercise. Naruto made his clones and told them to get started after she quickly explained what she had in mind. While the clones were busy, the two of them began by sparring lightly before focusing on speed and strength. After a few days, one of his clones succeeded in making what appeared to be an incomplete chakra scalpel. The clone had succeeded in sharpening the chakra to the point where it could be used as a knife. Following that small victory, he quickly replicated what the clone had done, and he was well on his way to creating a fully functional chakra scalpel. His other training was going well, too. He was getting better at both Taekwondo and Aikido, and he was giving Anko a run for her money in sparring matches. Despite the fact that Anko was aware that Naruto was guarding her, she was perplexed as to why. She knew a lot of shinobi who didn't like to show their full power, because they believed that a shinobi should always hide their full potential, unless they had no choice. Anko had taught him several kaiten jutsus, and 3 variations on the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and the ninjutsu training was also a lot of fun. Those lessons were fresh in his mind. Flashback. Okay, Gaki, I've got 3 Kage Bunshin no Jutsu variations for you to learn. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and Bakuretsu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu are the names of the 3. The first 2 create clones based on your kunai or shuriken, rather than clones of yourself. You can probably see the benefit of that. The third one creates clones in the same way that the regular Kage Bunshin no Jutsu does, but it also allows you to have the clone explode and take your enemy with it. Anko clarified. Anko stopped him from creating clones to assist him in mastering the jutsu. In the beginning, there was no Naruto and no clones. I'd like you to learn them on your own first. You can use Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to master them once you've mastered them well enough. I don't want you to be completely reliant on that jutsu. Naruto was given an order by Anko. Naruto didn't understand why he couldn't learn the new jutsu using the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. But, if he was honest with himself, he realized he was overly reliant on the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, so he nodded and began studying the Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. In the end, it took him about 2 days to master each jutsu to the point where Anko allowed him to use the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to complete the task. But he felt great about himself for not learning them with Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He determined that he would always learn a new jutsu on his own, and that he would only finish mastering it with Kage Bunshin no Jutsu once he was able to do it well enough. Return to the present. Naruto made a breakthrough in his seal experiments halfway through the month. He'd been attempting to make his own storage scroll, but it turned out to be more difficult than it appeared. The necessary seals for the scroll were far more complicated than he had anticipated, but he persevered. Naruto didn't know the meaning of the words giving up, so he kept trying, with Anko cheering him on. When he tried 100 times to make a storage scroll, he finally succeeded. He applied 2 necessary seals in the wrong order because he wasn't paying attention for a brief moment. As a result, he created a fully functional storage scroll on his own. It was the first time he succeeded in making a working scroll, so he was understandably ecstatic, and couldn't stop grinning for the next 2 days. The next step in the book he received from Yuandaime was to create a gravity seal that he could wear on his chest. His body would be twice as heavy as usual as a result of this seal. The advantage of this seal, according to Anko, was that it would affect every muscle in his body, unlike normal weights, which were rarely used anymore. As a result, much more training would be completed. Yuandaime had written in the margin that he had personally used this seal when he was a child, which piqued Naruto's interest. Anko stated that she would not allow him to put it on his body, until she was certain that he could do so safely. She also talked to Sandaime Hokage about it, and only if he said the seal was safe, would she let him put it on his body. He summoned Anko 2 days before she was due to report on Naruto's progress. He finished a small side project he'd been working on. He'd been attempting to design his own weapon for quite some time, and he decided to start small by making some throwing knives. While kunai were extremely useful and many shinobi used them as throwing weapons, they were not designed for this purpose. Kunai were created to be used for stabbing and cutting. He finally got them right after several attempts. Anko, taken aback by Naruto's actions and sensing that he was nervous about something, approached him and inquired if anything was wrong. Naruto, who was perspiring profusely, reassured her that everything was fine and that he had prepared something special for her. He then handed her a small package and instructed her to open it. Anko couldn't believe her eyes when she opened it. 3 exquisitely shaped knives were found inside. She sat down and picked up one of the knives to examine it more closely. The handle was about 8 inches long, and the knife was long and double-G'd in shape. The handle was just the right length for her hand, allowing her to comfortably hold it. The knife appeared to be extremely sharp and simple to use. Naruto, who had been watching her examine the knife, was concerned that she didn't like it. He sincerely hoped she enjoyed them. It was his way of expressing gratitude for everything she had done for him over the previous 3 months. "I'm at a loss for words when it comes to Naruto. These are fantastic. How did you come up with such incredible weapons? I didn't even notice you attempting to forge them." While switching her gaze between the knives and Naruto, Anko said, "I knew kunai weren't meant to be used as throwing weapons, so I decided to make my own. As a result, I designed them myself and began making them out of scrap metal I obtained from a shop. I forged them out of that high-quality metal as a present for you when I knew I could make them perfectly. Do you think they're good? I understand if you don't want to." Naruto expressed himself shyly. "Do you like them? Thank you so much for such a thoughtful gift. I'll keep them in my heart for the rest of my life. I can't believe you went out of your way for me." With a tear in each eye, Anko stated the truth. When she told him she loved his present, Naruto felt a huge weight lift from his shoulders. "It was nothing, Anko, and I'm glad you like them," she says. They'd spent the rest of the day practicing with the knives, and Anko had to admit that they were far more comfortable and easier to throw than kunai. Naruto's ability to forge such a flawless weapon astounded her. Sandaime Hokage, she was certain, would say the same thing. When she told Naruto that, he flushed a little. She asked Naruto if he needed anything from the library the night before she had to leave for her report. Naruto, who had yet to finish his book on sealing and had yet to begin his book on jutsu making, assured her that he was fine for the time being. Naruto was well aware that Anko worked for the old Hokage. As a result, he pretended as if he hadn't yet learned these things. "Good morning, Hokage-sama. I've come to give you my monthly report." Since she was in a playful mood, she saluted the Hokage. The Hokage smiled and wished her a pleasant day. He sat her down and waited for her to begin her report. But before she began, she took a small package from her backpack and handed it to him. "Naruto gave it to me as a gift. I'd like to express my gratitude for everything you've done for him," Anko said, a smile on her face. Shinobi cautiously opened the package, unsure of what it contained. He carefully took one of the 3 knives in his hand and examined it. He could tell they were made with great care and precision. He thought they were lovely, almost like a work of art that wasn't meant to be used in combat. He turned to Anko and asked her to explain herself. He couldn't help but feel happy and honored when he learned that Naruto had forged these throwing knives for him. She also informed him that he had created a set for her. "How does that boy manage to surprise me on a regular basis?" Sandaime inquired aloud. Anko, like the last time, gave a detailed account of Naruto's progress. How he mastered the chakra scalpel exercise and the jutsu he'd learned, and how he made his own storage scroll. She also told him about Naruto's desire to try the gravity seal. She inquired about the dangers posed by such a seal. Sandaime quickly reassured her that if Yondaime had used the seal, it was perfectly safe to use. As he finished with the chakra scalpel exercise. For someone with his level of chakra, that's incredible. To accomplish such a feat, he must have put in a lot of effort. "What's the status of his taijutsu?" Shinobi inquired. Naruto spent all day practicing the chakra scalpel exercise, but once he made his first small breakthrough, it didn't take him long to finish it, according to Anko. She also told him that his taijutsu was becoming increasingly difficult to beat as a result of his speed and strength training. Also, his stamina was greater than hers, so I couldn't continue to underestimate him. In her opinion, he was gaining strength at a rapid rate. She also told him that she believed it was only a matter of time before he started making his own jutsu. "Anko, how powerful do you think Naruto is now, and how powerful do you think he will be in a year? Please respond truthfully. This is critical." In a solemn tone, Shinobi stated. Anko was taken aback by the question and remained silent for a full minute, pondering how she would assess Naruto's strength and level honestly. After some consideration, she informed the Sandaime Hokage that she believed Naruto was currently somewhere between low chunin and medium chunin. She gave him this level because, despite his mastery of taijutsu and chakra control, Naruto still needed to improve or acquire a number of skills. Naruto would be between mid-level and high-level chunin by the end of the year, she predicted. Of course, as his sensei, she was biased, but she believed that if anyone could do it, it would be Naruto. Shinobi nodded, pleased with Anko's straightforward response. "I'm leaving now, Hokage-sama," says the Hokage. Anko spoke up, the Hokage agreed, and she walked out of the office. Still, she couldn't help but wonder if she should have brought up Naruto's constant holding back. She knew he held back because of the strength behind his fists. She knew he held back because of his strength, which is mostly that of a low chunin. But Anko had noticed Naruto had slipped and used up to high chunin, and his speed was incredible at times. Naruto, on the other hand, had completed his mandatory training for the day around noon, giving him the rest of the afternoon to study seals. He had an idea that he wanted to test out in the back of his mind. He skimmed through the book the night before and discovered something called a blood seal that he liked right away. A seal that would protect his scrolls and allow only him to open them seemed like a good idea. He'd need a way to protect his clan's secrets if he wanted to start his own clan weapons and jutsu, so blood seal protection sounded ideal. He finally succeeds in sealing one of his storage scrolls after several attempts. He applied the seal to all the storage scrolls he had made up to this point, pleased with his accomplishment. He flipped through the book, looking for something useful, knowing he had plenty of time before Anko returned. A small note caught his eye just as he was about to give up on finding something he could do, because many of the seals were still out of reach. The Ondarime had scribbled something down between 2 chapters, and the seal he described was one that allowed you to channel chakra into a weapon. The seal would encase the weapon in a chakra casing. The casing would take the weapon's form and shape and have a razor-sharp edge, making the weapon even sharper and more powerful. Naruto compared it to a chakra scalpel mounted on a weapon. He could see how something like this could be useful. The chakra scalpel had the effect of cutting through butter like a hot knife. Having such an advantage on a weapon would do a lot of damage to his opponents. He took one of his throwing knives out of his bag and etched the seal into the blade. He took his time because he didn't want to ruin his knife by making a mistake. He finished the seal after about a half hour of meticulously engraving it. He was curious as to how much damage his new knife would cause. He went to the tree they had used for target practice, deciding that there was no better time than now. He had a little trouble getting the right amount of chakra into the seal. He threw the knife at the target with all the strength he could muster, when he saw a blue glow appear around it, just like the book said. He saw the kunai piercing the trees and not stopping until the 10th tree, keeping his gaze fixed on the weapon. He went over to the target tree and noticed that the knife had gone right through it, as if it didn't exist. When he retrieved his knife, he noticed that the chakra casing had vanished. He reasoned that the casing had vanished when the knife passed through the first tree. Then it was just a regular throwing knife. Naruto was collecting knives when Anko arrived. "Is everything okay, Naruto? What is it that has put you in such a good mood?" Anko inquired, a little worried. "Anko-sensei, keep an eye on this." Naruto didn't say anything else. He walked over to the tree, followed by Anko. He threw the knife at the tree after channeling some chakra into it. Anko dropped the scroll she was holding when she saw the knife go through the tree. She managed to ask Naruto how the hell he did that, looking shocked and unable to believe what she had just witnessed. As a result, Naruto began to explain how to apply the blood seal to his storage scroll, and where to find the weapon seal in the book. He told her he had tried it on one knife, and was so pleased with the results that he immediately began engraving the seal into his other knives. He did it all in one day. The gaki with seals is getting better and better. What else is he going to come up with? I can't wait to see how all those jerks at the Civil Council react when they realize how talented Naruto is. Wow, that'll be a sight to behold. With a smile on his face, Anko pondered. "Hey Gaki, how about we go to the Ichiraku Ramen to celebrate?" she asked, pointing to the direction behind her. Naruto nodded in agreement and followed her behind. Soon they were making their way there, walking through the streets. It was dusk, and there were people everywhere. Naruto couldn't help but feel the glares towards Anko. Since the first week, Naruto had noticed that his lady friend wasn't very popular with the citizens of the Konoha. Still, unlike him, who mainly was disliked by the civilian side, Anko was actually disliked by the shinobi side. The blonde wondered why, if she had done something that had angered them. Anko seemed to not care about what they said about her. She had gotten used to them, but it was mostly the Chunin and some Genins that called her like this. The Jonin side mostly didn't care, and Kurenai and Yuga were her best friends. They were almost at the Ichiraku Ramen when someone marched towards them. From his clothes, Anko and Naruto could tell this one was a Chunin. "Look at this, a snake bitch and demon fox." Everything seemed to have stopped. Anko didn't understand what happened and didn't have time. One moment the Chunin was standing so close to them that she could smell the alcohol coming out of his mouth, but the following moment, a crash happened to a store near them. Anko was confused. She turned to see the very same shinobi lying on rubble, his head bleeding from several different places around his head. But what shocked Anko was Naruto standing close to him, glaring at him with ice blue eyes. Anko was almost reminded of the eyes of her monster former sensei. The way he looked at someone he hated or desired. She almost felt frightened from his eyes, despite his eyes being aimed at the Chunin and not at her. Anko felt her throat dry, almost frozen. She couldn't comprehend how fast had Naruto moved. She had seen nothing. She knew he always held back whenever he fought her, but this was just ridiculous. Naruto stood over the shinobi, who had his head down. The blonde looked down on him. The shinobi slowly raised his head, his eyes from confusion to anger and hatred. Deswa, he was stopped when he felt Naruto grabbing his throat. He couldn't talk and couldn't breathe. Grabbing his hand, he tried to free himself, but couldn't move the demon's hands from his throat not even an inch. Listen here, worm, next time you talk like that, your head bleeding will be the last thing you will worry about, Naruto promised, leaning closer, his eyes piercing his soul like a knife. The shinobi felt frozen from his gaze, from the sheer strength of his. The shinobi could only nod. Naruto released his grip and walked towards Anko, completely ignoring the number of people gathered to see what was happening. We can leave if you want, Naruto suggested, but Anko almost couldn't hear him. He looked at the shinobi who stood up, holding his head with his hand, trying to stop the blood. Anko glanced at Naruto before she nodded. This was not the best night to go to Ichiraku. Soon Anko reached her home, and Naruto had walked her to it. She turned to the blonde who looked unfazed by what had just happened. I appreciate you standing up for me, Naruto, but you shouldn't have done that. Now people, she was stopped when Naruto spoke. Why do people hate you? I mean, people have hated me since I could remember myself, but why you? Is it because you're training me? Naruto asked, playing the ignorant, knowing that wasn't the case. Kakashi trained the blonde, and no one hated him, but that wasn't the case for Anko. The snake woman avoided his eye contact, instinctively touched the place where her curse mark was. She hadn't mentioned the curse marker or Orochimaru to her little student. She didn't want him to feel pity for her. But now, she knew if she just acted as if nothing was wrong, Naruto might think she didn't trust him. Sighing, she turned her eyes at him. Have you heard of Orochimaru, the Sanin snake? Naruto listened to Anko's story from beginning to end. She spoke of her time first meeting with Orochimaru, how excited she had been to be taught by someone like him. I regret many things, but going with Orochimaru when he betrayed the village is what I regret the most, and if he hadn't abandoned me. She stopped feeling tears in her eyes. Naruto put his hands on her shoulder. You don't have to continue, I understand it. Naruto spoke with a smile, a real one, a smile he showed to Kurama, and he used to show it to his Uchiha family. Anko smiled back. After he put the curse mark on me, he abandoned me, and I returned back to Konoha. The rest is history. She finished wanting to be done with this story as soon as possible. After she was done, she expected Naruto to look at her with disgust, the same way many still looked at her, but she saw concern and anger, but not directed at her, but at the man who did this to her. You followed your sensei, the man you thought was right all the time. I don't blame you for that, Naruto spoke. Anko shook her head in denial, and she knew what she was doing. She had betrayed the village when she chose to follow the snake. If it weren't for the third Hokage being merciful to her, she would either be in prison or executed for treason by now. Thank you for not looking at me differently, Naruto. I appreciate it. She spoke with a smile. Her face brightened up like a candle. Naruto saw something new in her face. She looked different to him suddenly. The air of anger and self-hatred that seemed to be around her all the time seemed to have disappeared. Anko, I know you don't know me for long, but I never go back on my word. I always keep it. Therefore I give you my word. I will destroy that seal that has prisoned you for so long. Naruto promised with an open hand where his heart was on his chest. Anko sighed, knowing there was no way he could actually do anything to help her. I appreciate your words, Naruto, but this, she spoke as she touched the seal on her shoulder, is a prison I can never get rid of. I made my peace with it. I know you're talented, but even Jiraiya-sama couldn't do anything to this. All he could do was use the seal to prevent this one ever to take control of me ever again. She spoke with sadness. But the face she saw in Naruto wasn't the one she expected. You're wrong, and any seal can be destroyed. I will prove it to you. Naruto spoke with confidence. Anko sighed sadly, knowing her student would not change his mind no matter what she said. All she could do was go along with it, and hope he gives up soon, and sees that he can't do anything to help her. No one can help me. This is what I deserve for betraying my village, and following that lunatic, Anko thought. Very well, but we are still waking up at 7 AM tomorrow to train, Anko said with a chuckle at the end, easing the bad atmosphere around them. Naruto chuckled before turning to leave. Good night, Anko, Naruto said, waving his hand at her before disappearing. Good night, Naruto, Anko said after he disappeared, seeing leaves left behind. Naruto after 2 months. Another explosion happened inside his house, and Naruto coughed like crazy. Another explosion, another failed seal. He quickly ran and opened the window, letting the smoke outside. He couldn't believe after 2 months, he still wasn't able to do anything. Why am I doing wrong? Naruto asked himself out loud, rubbing his long blonde hair. His hair had grown at the sides of his head, 2 fangs reaching his eye level. Naruto sat on the floor as he tried to come up with something to help. Despite trying everything, he couldn't do anything. He had used 1000 clones every day just to study Fuinjutsu. Despite all that, he still kept failing. Hitting the floor with his fist, Naruto sighed, tired, but he had not given up yet. Kurama, any idea? Naruto suddenly asked mentally. He had sought his friend's help since he started this, but to his confusion, his very big brother was mostly quiet or just said he wasn't sure. Don't you think you should give up, Naruto? I understand you want to help her, but no, Naruto interjected immediately with a slightly harsh tone. I gave my word, Kurama. What kind of man I'm if my word means nothing, especially in a world where people lie and deceive all the time, Naruto spoke, his tone firm and not bulging, not even in the slightest. The words he heard brought a smile to Kurama's face, reminding him of his father. I might know a way to help, but I need you to listen closely, Kurama spoke with a severe tone. Anko's house. She sat in her bed. Naruto sent her a clone telling her that he wanted to meet her in her house. Anko sat nervously, chewing her lower lip enough to draw blood, as she had her mind full of thoughts. Has he really found a way? Is it even possible? Anko asked herself, not wanting to give herself hope. She bit her nail when she heard the door opening. The footstep sound came closer as Naruto walked inside her main room. Naruto turned his eyes at her, but the way he looked at her, she knew this was something severe. Anko-san, I might have found a way to destroy the stupid curse seal, Naruto spoke with a low tone. Anko found the corner of her lips twitched upwards. Hope filled her body like a warm blanket, as her heart beat in her throat. But, you should know it comes with a big danger. If I fail, you will lose your chakra. You will never be able to use chakra ever again, Naruto warned her with an ice tone. Anko gulped at the consequences. Just the thought of losing her chakra made her want to deny. Her hand instinctively touched her curse mark. She thought back to when all of this started. Damn it. Anko was clutching at her shoulder. It had started to throb and hurt like hell at random. The attacks were getting shorter, and the attacks seemed to be getting more intense. It's alright, she panted, clutching at her shoulder. I'm a ninja. I can deal with pain. What cannot be changed can be endured. The words brought little consolation as the seal suddenly throbbed. She clenched her shoulders so hard that her nails drew blood. Why me? Why have I got to be the lucky one? She was tough but not a masochist, no matter what some people thought. Then without warning, it had started to hurt for no apparent reason. The attacks had been coming quicker, lasting longer, and were becoming more and more violent. What scared her even more than the pain was the evidence something was happening. The skin around her curse mark had turned a sickening shade of gray. The mark itself had grown its inky lines spreading out to form a complex pattern within the area of infected skin. When she touched the mark, she could feel the heat coming from it, as though that one part of her body was fevered. Something is happening to me, she muttered fearfully. I'm changing. She kept screaming out in pain for hours to no end, not stopping. He was looking down at her with one of those slight playful grins she had come to recognize as not being a sign of good humor, but a sign of interest. His yellow snake eyes measured her, saw through her, read her thoughts with casual ease. She'd never been able to keep any secrets from him. Looking up at him now, she felt that same old certainty that he could read her like an open book. So full of pain and rage, little Anko, sensei said in his soft lilting whisper. Tell me, what is it that fills you with such fury? He was a traitor. He had abandoned her and thrown her aside as if she were garbage. She hated him. She also loved him, just as a child loves the parent, no matter how much she'd suffered for it. On some level, she'd always hungered for his approval. Always wondered why her love had been rejected. She simply did not know how to stop caring about him. Why? She asked in her little girl voice. Why did you do this to me? It was a stupid question and not worthy of a shinobi, but it was the truth. She had loved with her whole heart. She had always done her best. She had always been loyal. Weren't all those things supposed to be rewarded? Why was she alone condemned? His eyes glittered, and she was certain he could read her thoughts. You suffer because you are a failure, he answered simply. I thought you might prove worthy to be my apprentice, but you lacked the will to seek power. So I used you as a test subject, and even there, you disappointed me. He let out a sigh. You are nothing but a failed experiment. With that, he walked away, leaving her on the ground on her own, alone in her pain and loneliness. The light disappeared as the door closed in front of her, leaving her alone in the darkness. Anko breathed, calming herself, sweating bullets, biting her lower lip again. All could be gone, all the pain, all the sleepless night, everything, I can be free. She looked at Naruto again, and she nodded her head, sweat rolling down her cheek like a waterfall. How will this work? Anko found herself asking. I will use Kyuubi's chakra to destroy it, Naruto said, taking Anko by surprise. Her eyes widened, he knows. She opened her mouth to ask him, but before she could ask how he knew about the demon fox, Naruto raised his hand to stop her. I know about him, I will explain it later, but I need to know if you're up to this, Naruto spoke, not wanting to waste time. Anko avoided his eyes as her mind went back to all the restless nights, every night. She woke up with her body almost in fire from the pain, so much pain that she had thought to cut it out the part of her skin. Taking a deep breath, the thought of getting rid of it eased the tension she felt. I want to do this, she decided with confidence. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. I will need you to sit with your legs crossed on the floor, and remove your top, Naruto said as he was avoiding her eyes, his face as red as blood. Anko found herself bursting out laughing before nodding. I'm fine with it, she spoke. If it meant that a curse would disappear, she wouldn't be bothered. Taking her top off, her back turned at Naruto, who held his head down to not look. It was another half an hour before the brush left her skin for the last time. Much like the Fukinjutsu on the floor beneath her, The markings on her body were made up of intricate markings with barely any space between them. From afar it would just look like they were lines made up of small blobs, but looking closer, you could easily see each mark was made up of hundreds of other symbols. This was a testament to just how good Naruto had become with Kinjutsu over the years he'd be studying. There were 6 lines of these, all directed to the curse mark on Anko's shoulder, with a ring of them around the curse seal. Each line was placed, so it lined up with the array drawn on the floor, and he had done it all with incredible accuracy and speed. Putting the ink jar to the side along with the brush, Naruto took a deep breath as he stood behind Anko. Alright, we're all set. This is going to hurt like hell for the first few minutes, and then hurt like the fire of hell for the rest of it. So brace yourself, Anko, cause once I start, I can't stop. Anko nodded. She had no fantasies about it not hurting. When the mark was placed on her, the hours after had been the most painful of her life, so, of course, removing it would be just as painful if not more so. Alright Naruto, let's get this show on the road already. With a nod, Naruto took another breath before exhaling quickly as his hands burst into movement as he weaved through over 100 hand signs in under several seconds, before placing his right hand over the seal, and braced it with his left arm, Uzumaki style. Seal forbidden, Naruto called out as the array of Kinjutsu glowed a dangerous red all around the pair. Naruto started, and she had braced, waiting for the pain, but after 3 seconds, nothing had happened. She had thought for a second perhaps they'd been mistaken, but then she found out otherwise. It hit her on the 7th second, pain everywhere. It felt as though someone was stabbing her all over. Her eyes bulged, and she screamed out in pain, which was only enhanced by the room's acoustics as it echoed. Luckily the room was made soundproof by a number of seals, otherwise, they would have had people coming to find out what the screaming was all about. Hearing her in pain made Naruto want to complete this as soon as possible, but Naruto knew he had to keep going no matter what. The risk to her, if he stopped, was too significant. He risked frying out her whole chakra network if he did. He had tried for so long to try to find a painless way to remove the mark, but there was none. Using Kurama's chakra would cause her to feel like she was burning. Thankfully a curse mark could never be placed in a Jinchuriki. Therefore Naruto used Kurama's chakra to help, and there would have been so many things that could have gone wrong. Kurama's chakra would work and go to the chakra in the curse mark, and the worst part was that the chakra of the snake was still spread around her chakra points. Naruto needed to burn every last bit of the chakra left by the curse mark. Every time he burned chakra, the pain Anko felt like someone was tearing her skin apart. As one of the lines of Kinjutsu started glowing orange, Naruto knew that the seal had started to break down. Pulling back his left arm, he started to cycle through the second series of single hand signs, before putting his left hand beside his right and closing his eyes. Uzumaki-style Soul Seal, Naruto called out as his chakra flowed out of his hand and turned a dark purple, as Anko screamed in pain even more as the second process began. It was a jutsu his clan had made for dealing with Junjutsu. Some Uzumakis had strayed down that path, but had been expunged from the clan, and this jutsu made to remove their twisted creations. Still, it had been labeled a forbidden art due to the extreme pain it caused the victim with the curse mark, but it was the only method Naruto could find that worked. The process continued for another 2 hours as slowly, each line of Kinjutsu on Anko's body turned orange. As the final one turned, they all flashed a bright blinding blue before disappearing completely as Anko and Naruto collapsed on the ground, their energies completely. Looking to Anko's neck, he smiled. It was slightly red from the heat of the removal process, but it was done. The curse mark was completely destroyed. Anko lay on the ground panting, not even having the energy to cover her chest. As she strained her voice to speak, "Is it gone?" she asked as she struggled to keep her eyes open. Naruto nodded. "It's gone, Anko. You're finally free from him. You're all your own now," he said with a slight smile on his lips. When that was matched by Anko, as she slowly fell asleep as exhaustion took her. Naruto saw she had fallen asleep, releasing a sigh of relief. He stood up, Kurama filling him with chakra. He walked over to her. Naruto quickly put a blanket over her naked chest, grabbing her on his arms. He put her back to her bed, making sure she wasn't cold. He released the silent seals around the room. He glanced at her again, making sure she was fine. Naruto left the house, reaching his home, falling asleep the moment his body touched the bed. Itachi, control. It was all about control. Years of it, raised in it, cultivated and honed stronger and sharper than steel in Itachi, it was entrenched. It was his weapon and his armor, and it served him well. Kept him efficient. Kept him alert. Always ready, always useful to someone, always on the move. Always one step ahead. He would be intangible. Never completely understood. Never in reach of the hands that grabbed at him from every direction. He would be like smoke, curling softly in shadow, the fire unseen. Control was all that ever kept it from burning him alive. Try as he might to smother it, he had only to wait for nightfall, for the early morning hours when exhaustion wore him down. And then control was slipping from his fingers, and he was tumbling backward into the abyss, crystal clear memory rising up to meet him like river rocks. The first time Itachi woke up in a cold sweat was the morning after Shisui died. He'd been sure he wouldn't sleep at all that night, didn't think he'd ever sleep again, but he didn't yet know how exhausting the Mangekyo Sharingan could be. Didn't know how to handle it at all, didn't know how to turn it off, but then again, he didn't know how to stand, either, until after he'd cried himself numb. They came to question him later that day. Pushed him till he snapped. It was a calculated move, of course, on his part, letting the cracks show. It didn't change the fact that he shook with rage and grief, and there was no faking that. He had no choice. He had no choice. He had to do it. He had to tell himself this, every day, every hour, just to keep waking up for a while. He would never admit how long. He would never admit a lot of things. To kill an Uchiha, one must be stronger than him. To kill every Uchiha, one must be stronger than them all. For a 13-year-old boy, even a prodigy, that is a near impossible task. Only with his newly awakened eyes could he accomplish it. And there remembered it all in nauseating clarity. Every wound, every ruined house, every child's cry. Pleas for mercy. Solemn curses in the old god's names. Like he wasn't already cursed from the first drop spilled. In his waking life, the lie was simple. He was Uchiha Itachi, a traitor of the glorious clan, painted villain, painted black and red, hated and hunted, wanted dead or alive. He upheld this image stunningly because control was all he had, and everything, every little thing hinged on the lie becoming truth. In his dreams, the truth shattered into 1,000 pieces that slotted back together in terrible ways. One night he found Shisui's body, cold and lifeless in the snow. He took off his own cloak to try to warm him up, but it turned into crows before it could touch him, crows that pecked at Shisui's glassy eyes until the sockets were bloody. Itachi tried to stop them, but he couldn't move. Couldn't scream when they turned to him and started eating him alive. When he woke up, his throat was hoarse, like he'd worn out his voice while he slept. He wondered briefly, chagrined if he really had screamed. 10 minutes later, standing over the sink and spitting out blood from his lungs, he didn't wonder anymore. Another night it was Naruto he found instead. Only he wasn't too late, checked his pulse, and it fluttered under his fingertips. He took him inside and wrapped him in blankets, brought him something warm to drink, but Naruto wouldn't take it. Wouldn't speak to him, wouldn't look at him, wouldn't even acknowledge he was there. He started to think that maybe he wasn't. Morning dawned with the feeling that he hadn't much time left. In this dream, death was coming for him in the way it was supposed to in the body of his brother, blade in hand and righteous fire in his eyes. And maybe it was death so near that the boundary blurred, but he could finally see them. Every one of his clansmen, waiting just on the other side. Naruto closed in, and for the first time, he felt a trickle of panic. In the dream, Itachi saw his clan getting killed by a small shadow with a sword. Itachi ran to his parents' house to save them. Opening the door, he would see the shadow behind his parents. Itachi wanted to scream but no words, no screams, nothing. He couldn't speak, he couldn't move, he couldn't stop this. The bodies of his parents fell on the floor as the shadow removed his mask. Itachi gasped as seeing Naruto behind the mask with strange eyes. His eyes looked like the Rinnegan, but they were red like blood, his smile twisted. Now to kill your little brother, the twisted Naruto spoke with a chuckle at the end. Itachi ran and tried to stop him, but his hand went through his body as if he was a ghost. Dark Naruto laughed, walking upstairs. They reached a room. Itachi didn't remember to have been there before. Opening the door, Itachi saw another Naruto sleeping peacefully in the bed, a smile on his lips. No, stop this, Itachi begged and desperately tried to grab Naruto and leave, but his hands just went through him. Itachi fell on his knees as the dark, twisted Naruto plunged his sword deep into his heart. Opening his eyes, Itachi felt the sun shining down on him. Gasping, he stood up immediately. He released a sigh of relief, knowing it was a dream. He slapped himself, making sure this was the end of his nightmare. The masked man is not the real one. The words of his little brother ringing on his head like bells. This world is war, and will not stop. I want your help to stop this cycle of wars. Itachi had heard his little brother. Clearly, Naruto told him the masked man wasn't Madara. But when Itachi had asked how could he know that Naruto had stood silent, the only response he got was that he would find his answers, but he needed him to do something first. Itachi had understood he wouldn't speak more of it. As Itachi washed his face, he remembered one thing clearly. I will unite this world. Itachi remembered those words more clearly than anything else. Taking a deep breath, Itachi was ready to do his part of the job and watch. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.